Hey guys, it's Brijette with San Diego Seed Company. Today I want to talk to you about something that we get so many questions about. It's planting your wildflower seeds. How do you do it and how can you be successful? Well, first, before I explain that, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, so that way anytime Kellogg Garden puts out a video, you can be notified and you can grow your garden the best way possible. We get tons of emails and tons of phone calls about wanting to start wildflower seeds, particularly in the cooler season. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it where you can be very successful, and then there's some mistakes that you can make that will result in practically no wildflowers. So first, let's talk about plant selection. With so many flowers seeds on the market, how do you know which ones to pick? Well, I'll break it down a little bit for you. If you're a brand new gardener, a novice gardener, you don't really know a whole lot about growing, stick with easy to grow wildflowers that do really well in your area. These are flowers that naturally like your climate, your soil, all of those things. So make sure you do a little bit of research and find out what grows well in your area and select wildflowers for your particular planting conditions. For us, these different flowers here, sages, California bluebells, our Southwest mix, these are all flowers that do really well in Southern California, and that's why we're planting them out on our property. Now that you know what kind of plants to choose, let's talk about when you plant them. Every area has a different planting requirement time, depending on where you are. Here in Zone 9 and 10, Southern California, we usually plant ours in the fall, going through the winter and into the spring. For any area that gets really heavy snow or cold temperatures, heavy frost, you're likely going to want to start your wildflowers in the springtime, after the danger of frost has passed. That's because most wildflowers can't take frost and will die if you have heavy frost weather. Let's talk about how we do it first. So here on our farm in Southern California, we start all of our wildflowers first. We start them in trays, plug trays, or big trays like this that we actually plant out. We do that because we don't get reliable rainfall. And it's a lot easier to get my seeds started and get my plants growing up to a nice, healthy, happy size and plant them out to guarantee that they're gonna grow. This is a beautiful native wildflower called California bluebells and has gorgeous cobalt blue flowers. So you can see this is a good size that I can actually plant out into my garden and guarantee that it's actually gonna grow up big enough to bloom and be happy. Now this is just one way to do it. It's the way that works best for us. You can also broadcast your seeds out into the garden, and I'll explain exactly how to do that in a minute. So if you have the time, the energy, and the resources to start your seeds like we do in a greenhouse or a protected environment, that's your best bet. But if you don't, I'll show you how you can scatter your seeds directly in the garden and have the best results possible. Let's go. All right, so if you want to direct sow your seeds into the ground, just right where you want them to grow, here's some of my tips on how to make that the most successful. So first of all, you can see here, I've actually cleared away all of this mulch. If I were to take these seeds and I were just to scatter them in the mulch, it's likely none of them would germinate. So you want to prep the area just like you would any other planting. So luckily we have really good soil. You can see this is just gorgeous soil. All this mulch has been breaking down over time and we have tons of worms and just gorgeous soil. So I've cleared this area and I've also got irrigation. If you're in an area that doesn't get regular rainfall, you either need irrigation or you have to remember to water enough by hand so that your plants can germinate. So that's really important. I'm gonna take my Southwest wildflower mix and I'm gonna scatter it in this area, but I wanna show you how small some of these seeds are. So it's a mix. So there's seeds in different shapes and sizes here, but you can see some of these are really small. Now, if I were to cover up these tiny, tiny seeds with too much soil, they're not gonna germinate. So it's important that when we scatter them, we put them in the ground like this. I'm gonna actually pat them down. It doesn't have to be rocket science, but you do want them to stay in place so that when you water them, they don't wash away. And then you're gonna use my tried and true method. I talk about this all the time. It's just a simple spaghetti strainer, but I'm gonna use this to cover the seeds lightly. Now, you can see how fine this soil is that's coming out of here. None of these big chunks of mulch or organic matter are falling onto our seeds, and that's gonna make them germinate quicker because it's less chunky soil for them to sprout through. So I'm gonna cover these up nicely here. And even though I have irrigation, I'm still going to water these in because seeds require moisture to germinate. So it's really important. So let's just review what I did here. So I cleared the area, I got rid of any chunks, rocks, sticks, pulled out any weeds so they don't compete with my wildflowers. I broadcasted my seeds, pushed them down, and then I covered them with a very light mist of soil. Now, depending on the size of the seed that you're planting, you may want to put more soil or less soil. In our wildflower mix, most of these seeds are pretty small. But remember, as a general rule of thumb, the bigger the seed, the more soil you'll want to plant on top. So these are pretty small, so I don't have to do a whole lot. I'll water this, and then I'm gonna watch it daily, and I'm gonna wait for those seeds to sprout. Once they sprout, if any of them are too close together, I'm gonna wanna thin them so that they really thrive. And I can plant those ones that I thin in a different area. And then you just get to enjoy gorgeous wildflowers in your garden that's gonna bring pollinators and beneficial insects to your garden and just make your garden a more beautiful place. All right, guys, so remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so that you can know anytime Kellogg Garden puts out a really good video for you to check out to make sure you're successful in your garden.